Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Worthy Podcast, where we talk about being bold and doing hard things. I'm so excited to have my friend Cerita Edwards here. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited. I wanted to give a little bit of a background, and we've known each other for a while.
Long time.
And Cerita actually was the MC when I did my Be Bold Women's Conference.
Yeah, when are we bringing that back?
You know what? I want to do retreats.
That would be fun.
That would be fun.
That would be super fun.
So we might bring that back. Okay. But yeah, so Cerita was an MC full of life and energy and life experience. And so that's why we wanted to talk about the seasons that you've walked through.
Okay.
So just give us a little bit of your background.
Wow. So Cerita Edwards, I am originally from Anchorage, Alaska.
So crazy.
And I made my way to Arizona because my sweetheart, who I met at 15 years old, lived here.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I made my way here and have been here longer than I've lived any other place.
Yeah. Isn't that wild?
It's so wild. I just never thought I would be in the desert.
When I moved from here to Texas, because this is not like where I typically shoot the podcast, I was like, okay, I spent 17 years in California and then 20 years in Arizona, and now I'm on, I think, 4 years in Texas. And I do love Texas.
Yeah.
I do love
I like
Texas.
Texas too.
I
like Texas.
Texas. I always say,
not the humidity, but
it's okay right now.
Okay.
Like it's so brutally hot here.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
You forgot.
I was like, oh, it's so hot. We're in Phoenix, so in the summer right now, it's hot. Okay.
Cool.
I want to talk about, so there's a couple things that I wanted to have you share.
Okay.
And one, let's start with your husband and business. Okay. So you have two boys.
Very active.
Yeah, they are. They're going to be
very
some
active
serious athletes.
Boys.
Yeah. And share a little bit how you built your business with Brandon and then how to start from scratch. Like, give that, because I feel like a lot of people see successful women and couples and they think, man, they're so lucky. And honestly, I think it's by the grace of God, and you share.
Yeah, completely by the grace of God. And it's so funny people say that, because I talk about that a lot, how people see this and our homes,
this fabulousness,
and the cars that you drive and all the things, and they don't see what we went through.
Yeah.
Like Brandon and I, when we first got together, he was in banking and I was actually in banking too. And then as we transitioned out of banking, we realized the importance of real estate and how you could really build generational wealth. So when we got into real estate, we bought a ton of homes. And you guys got to remember, this was probably 06,
Okay,
07.
Yeah. I do remember. Joey was born in 07.
Okay. So we bought all these homes and we were newly married and living this life. And then all of a sudden, our parents didn't tell us about this, but the market changed and homes weren't worth what you bought them for. And all of this craziness happened. And I remember telling Brandon, we really have to let go of all of our properties. And he's like, no way. Because the man is like, no, I'm supposed to provide. And what are you talking about? His ego got in the way. And I'm like, we've got to make the decision. I remember having a conversation with my mom and she's like, you know what? You guys are going to have to file bankruptcy. It's not going to be the end of the world, and you're going to have to foreclose on your homes. And I was like, what? Oh. And I was like, she's like, you're going to be able to rebuild your life again, Cerita. And I remember telling Brandon, and he fought it. And then we realized a lot of people were doing it, and we're like, we just have to do it. So we literally lost everything.
Wow.
Everything in 07, 08, and had to start from scratch. Moved in with his parents, had our son, everything. We lost everything. We had built everything, lost everything. And then we were blessed with the greatest joy, which was our first son.
Yeah.
But that was hard.
That's hard.
Super hard.
And it's so humbling.
So humbling. Because you think you have it going on. I was like, oh yeah. I got all these properties. And no. God was
not right now.
Not yet. you thought you were it, but not yet. Let me just show you who's in control.
Yeah.
So we lost everything. And then we decided to take real estate seriously. I had been doing loans for a long time. And Brandon decided to become a real estate agent. We had a really good friend who would deposit huge checks when Brandon was a banker. And Brandon's like, this guy's depositing humongous checks. And he's like, I just want to get into it and see what he's doing. And he's like, Brandon has a work ethic. He's like, I work so hard. So he got into real estate and literally has been the biggest blessing.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then tell me now about the season, because you're rebuilding and more, because now you've expanded. I saw recently to more than just like houses.
Yeah. So Brandon and I have been I've partnered with him. It's so funny. I'm going to tell you this, and you might not know this, but we named our real estate team. It's just us. Well, and a couple of family members, but really just Brandon and I. And we named it the Be Bold Real Estate Team. Oh, wow. And it's funny because I was like, Annie, he knew I did the conference and stuff. Brandon's initials are BE. So we did it as Brandon Edwards Real Estate Team. But he's honestly like, no, it really does take you being bold to like, Brandon will go knock on somebody's door because he does commercial real estate too. And if you own a commercial property, he'll knock on your door to ask if you want to sell it. Like, that's how bold he is.
What's the worst thing that someone's going to say?
No. So anyways, we've been doing this so that's our little team. I don't know if I'd ever told you that, but I was like, that's our little team there. I was like, I got to tell Annie that because it really was, hindsight's always 20/20, but I was like, you putting me in that conference and allowing me to MC that, and like how bold we were to get up on stage and have incredible speakers and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, I don't know. It's just, and then Brandon's initials, it just kind of worked out.
I love it. Yeah, that's the Lord.
It is.
Because people think, I try not to feed into, there's a lot of things out there. And so people will copy or mimic. And I'm like, no one's you.
Right.
So like, the message is being bold. Yeah. But in who you are. Right. I love that you guys named it Be Bold. That's so good.
Yes. It's cool. So we've rebuilt our life and started over again and learned a lot of lessons from loss because that's where you learn everything is when you're losing. We tell that to our kids all the time. And we're just slow and steady wins the race now.
That's so good.
So, we're doing that. And we've now, like you said, transitioned into, we own an RV storage facility
I saw
in Glendale with a couple of partners. And that's been exciting. Slow process, but it's super exciting.
That's so cool.
So different.
I love that. It is different.
It's different.
But it's smart financially.
Yeah, it is smart financially because it's going to be lucrative once it's done, and then maybe we'll do another, but it takes time. It takes time to build a business. It's interesting process.
It is. It's like pounding the stone. You just keep, there's a book actually called Pound the Stone.
Really?
It's so good.
Really?
It's about, oh my gosh, I feel like our friend Priscilla talked about it, or Kim Johnson, and it's about a teenage boy. Oh my gosh, I hope I'm getting this right. And he is kind of all over the place, and a family starts teaching him how to work, but like grind, like knocking on doors and like pounding the stone. Yeah. And it's really good. I think I had Joey read it a few years ago. Like, it's a good book for your boys. I'll have to like post or share the link. Okay. I want to get into we're totally going to go on a huge pivot and talk about work-life balance, okay? Just like you're a mom and you're building, and the lie that I used to believe was that I can do everything on my own. And so how do you balance being married? You've been married for how long?
On Monday, it will be 18 years.
Wow, congratulations.
I know. 18 years.
That's wild.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I know.
Yes, because I've only been married 3 years this October, and I'm like, wow, I feel like sometimes it's 18 years, and then sometimes we're newlyweds.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
No, it's a beautiful, it's been a journey. Marriage is crazy. Marriage is like, it's what I wanted, but I got married at 25.
Okay.
So I always say you're different about every 7 years. You change a little bit. And so who I was at 25 and who Brandon was at 25, we are not the same people anymore. So you have to learn how to navigate that change. while remaining committed to your relationship.
Yeah.
You know, and like keeping that first and God first. And then you have babies, and then as a mom, you want to take care of your kids, and you kind of neglect your husband, and like it takes a lot. It takes a lot from me being a mother and a female, and also from Brandon's side too, like having to navigate. I'm not the only person my wife is focusing on anymore, you know? And then add in work. Like, I've been a working mom my kids' entire life. I never stayed home. So they have always seen me grinding, like their mom and dad grinding it out. But we've always been very present with our kids. And we always are at everything. And if it's not sports related, I make it a point to always have family vacations, because I think it's important to connect as just a family, not with sports, not with any distractions. It's just us, the four of us. So that balance for me, I have to travel. Like, I've realized I have to travel. Like, that is a non-negotiable for me to be a sane person.
Where's your favorite place?
Europe, Italy, by far, is the best.
That's
but I went to school there in college, so
oh, really?
I love Europe.
I did not know that.
Oh, yeah, I love Europe. I tell every
to college or high school?
No, college.
Okay.
Yeah, so studied abroad for a semester in my senior year, and I tell every kid, you have to do it.
You do have to do it.
You have to do it.
I only have one regret in life, and that was being in college, dumb and in love, and not studying abroad, because I didn't want to leave the boyfriend.
Yeah,
and I wanted to go to Spain. My biggest regret, yes, if you're in college and you have the opportunity to study abroad,
please do it.
1,000%.
You're a totally different person, because you're on your own, and you're like navigating this big world, and you realize there's so much more to the world than the U.S. I love the U.S., but there is like so much
and
to
even
see.
in like the bubble, especially when you're in college or at that age, you think that everyone lives like this. Or I mean, I think as Americans, we also have it pretty easy.
Totally.
And all the opportunities, like you were talking about grinding with your kids. You guys are entrepreneurs. Your kids will only know that lifestyle, which statistics show it sets them up now for them to be successful entrepreneurs, because they don't know any different. Like, you don't go to work 9 to 5, come home unhappy, complain about it, cook. Like, it's not that there's anything wrong with someone working 9 to 5.
Yeah.
But you're fulfilled.
Right.
And you come home fulfilled.
Right.
And you're full of joy and happy. And I feel like that's what they see.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Not always full of joy, but yes.
I mean,
I'm human.
We are all human.
And real estate is crazy. If anyone's,
it is. I know we were just talking about houses in Arizona. Okay. You talked about your youth a little bit, and then you've been married for 18 years. And when we sat down before I moved to Texas, so I'm going to totally take us in a different direction. I think I had just met John. We were just dating, because we were in the process of doing the conference, the Be Bold conference.
Yeah.
And we went to the Wigwam.
Yeah.
And we had dinner. And I didn't share a lot of that season with a lot of people, because I remember giving my life again to the Lord and saying, I'm going to live differently, because what I was doing before wasn't working for me. So we had dinner, and I shared how I met John and how he was pursuing me in such like a holy and pure way, and how just what the Lord was doing. And basically we weren't dating how normal, we weren't kids.
Yeah.
I think I was 37 when I met John, 36. And then you shared a little bit about your backstory with Brandon. So I would love for you, if you feel comfortable, sharing it with us. Because I feel like for women and for just young people, the world tells you that you have to live a certain way to know if sex is going to be good when you're married. And I think that's a lie. Yeah.
So that's funny. That's funny you brought that story up. I do remember us going there. So Brandon and I have known each other since we were 15. And Brandon and I will say for me, I definitely had other partners. I was not a virgin when I got married. But I felt a tug on my life. There was a book I read called In the Sheets or Between the Sheets. I can't remember, a long time ago. And I remember God just tugging at my heart saying, you're really supposed to save yourself.
Yeah.
Like for marriage. And I hadn't. I wasn't a virgin, and that is what it is. And I was like, wow. I was like, I think you're right. Well, it's funny. I had an ex who literally broke my heart, and I was like, you know what? The next person that I'm with, whoever it is, I'm not having sex. I was like, and they are going to be okay with it, and they are going to respect me, and they're going to say, it's just going to be easy. I said, God, I just know it. Sure enough, Brandon came along literally probably 6 weeks later, and we had been the best of friends, and I remember saying to him, listen, I don't want to have sex with like anybody. He was like my best friend, and I was like, I just don't want to have sex with anybody. I don't want to do it. I want to wait till marriage. And Brandon proposed to me. We were not dating. And
you were dating and he proposed?
I'll be very honest and transparent. I was moving down here. I said, I would live with you, but we're just not gonna.
Yeah.
Like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay. So he proposed before I moved down to Arizona. We lived together for a year.
Wow.
We slept in the same bed for a year and did not do one thing.
Wow.
So when we got married, it was like the first night you're like, trying to like navigate like this. And so but for us, it was like, it was right for us.
Yeah.
Was it hard though? I'll tell people it is extremely hard to like make that decision to figure out if you're even going to like each other, once you get married. So, but I'm thankful we did it. I'm thankful we did it.
Yeah. I remember you shared that with me, and that's not a story. Like, it's not cool, whatever the word kids use these days. Cool is probably not the word anymore.
They use something else.
Yeah. But I remember
my kids would be like, that's cap. I'm like, wait, what? What are you talking about?
You know what's so funny is John saying that's cap. And I'm like, I feel like you're overdoing it right now.
Yeah.
Now you just sound old.
yeah, exactly.
But when I met John, and I remember I was going to, like, we were going to date. And my cousin, who's a pastor, had a conversation with me and saying, like, okay, these are the boundaries that I suggest you follow. I've already had the same conversation with John. And I'm like, I'm an adult, first of all. And it was just my pride. But I'm so grateful that he loved me enough to have that hard conversation with me, because when Joey was in the 4th grade, we took him to a class at a church that talked about sex. And they had them do this activity where they wrote love on a sticky note. And then everyone around the table had to like put it on the next person's back until it got back to that original person. And then they asked the kids, what's on the back of the sticky note? And they're like, oh, it's dirty, the sticky note's crinkly, it's full of lint. And then the pastor's like, okay, can you imagine you sleeping around with all these people and all the soul ties that you're doing? That's what you look like. And I'm the mom. And I was like, Lord, that was for me. Yeah. And I was so convicted. Yeah. And I was like, wow. All these soul ties that I had created playing house with different people. And, but the Lord makes you white as snow.
I know.
Right?
Isn't that
and
crazy?
So like John, I remember dating John and like being very embarrassed to tell him that. And obviously we both had a testimony, but him reminding me, well, that was who you used to be. Now the Lord made you white as snow. So you're brand new. Yeah. And I was like, he was not fazed at all, and he kept ministering to me saying that. And so I remember you sharing that with me, and it was like, wow, the lie that the world tells women and men today is you should have sex before marriage, because what if you don't like the person? Yeah. And now that I'm on the other side of that, and I tell my kids, that's a lie, because I feel like the Bible says, like, okay, so I'm going to give you some scripture.
Yeah.
Like in Proverbs Proverbs 5:18-20. Let your fountain be blessed, and rejoice in the wife of your youth, a lovely deer, graceful doe. Let her breast fill you at all times with delight. Be intoxicated always in her love. Why should you be intoxicated, my son, with a forbidden woman and embrace the bosom of adulteress? And then in 1 Corinthians 6:18-20, it says, flee from sexual immorality. Every other sin a person commits is outside the body, but the sexually immoral person sins against his or her own body. Or do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit within you, whom you have from God? You are not your own, for you were bought with a price. So glorify God in your body. Mm-hmm. So the whole lie, I feel like now is like, one, my body, my choice. When the Bible just said, no, God sent his only son, Jesus, to die on the cross and paid for that. It's not your body.
Yeah.
And two, it's like you should, like young men, rejoice in, like, the Bible talks about sex and breasts. Like, people think the Bible is boring. And I'm like, there is drama, wildness, wisdom in the Bible if people just read it. But there is so much that the Bible says, and I'm like, God will bless you if you do save yourself for marriage.
Yeah.
Because you're pure and you don't have those soul ties.
Yeah.
And it is hard.
So I think you're right in that, in the fact that, here's the one thing I'll say, like, when you get married, and I think the Bible talks a lot about we're not supposed to have sex before you're married, not supposed to have sex before you're married. And then I think too, like, there has to be more to help people once they are married navigate that part. Yeah. Because you're still two people that don't know, like, whether you had never had it before you got married or your experience, you're still having to navigate that part of your relationship, which can be hard for people. I know Brandon and I struggled with it for a while, like figuring that out, and people don't talk about it. It's like, oh, great, you waited for marriage to have sex. But then it's like,
you're like,
then
well,
what?
now what?
Exactly. And I think that's like, I heard somebody else talk about that, and I agreed with it 100%. Like, that's missing.
That's true.
Missing.
People don't talk about sex.
At all.
And it's not, there's nothing wrong with it inside a marriage.
No.
Is the thing. Someone, that's so funny that you said that, because I went to a bridal shower. And someone shared about going to a, like, sex, Holy Spirit filled, like a Christian sex therapist. And I was like, that's a thing? Like, I must live under a rock.
Yeah,
I had no idea.
Me neither.
And then one other person shared about praying, and like before and during, and I was like, I thought I was brand new in that room. Like, I was like, wow, because there's nothing wrong with having, like, sex in marriage. And then someone else shared this. To me, it was such good wisdom. Having sex with your husband in marriage fights against spiritual warfare. So they talked about if there is something coming after you guys, like in your life. She's like, every time that happened, I was like, oh wait, we haven't been intimate. And I'm like, that is so real. Yeah. And so then now, anytime John and I, like, there is a disagreement, like, I'm a physical touch person.
Yes. I'm
like, touch me, hug me, kiss me all the time. And he had no idea. Like, he knew who I was, but he's like, oh yeah. You like, just like pet me. Like, I just like it. But if there is a point where we're fighting too much, or there's something just like,
something's off,
you know, that there's something off in your marriage. Yeah. And I'm like, oh wait, have we been intimate recently? Like, and so now I'm like, wait, that is what the Lord wants us to do, to fight against spiritual warfare.
Never heard of that before. That's good though.
And I feel like,
that's good.
Can someone like who's 60 years old just teach us about these things?
Yeah, because we just need, I think that's missing. Nobody talks about this. We might be onto something.
Yeah, I'm like, please share the wisdom, because there is nothing cringe, nothing wrong, nothing like unholy about being intimate with your husband. No. And
you just have to navigate that.
Yeah.
In a marriage, like,
yes, and be very open.
And have really open lines of communication. That's another thing that's big with Brandon and I, is navigating that, like, communication.
How do you guys do that?
Brandon is, well, I'll speak for me. I'm the one who likes to like work through something and keep talking about it until
it's done.
Until it's done. And Brandon is not.
Sounds like a man.
Yeah, Brandon is not. And Brandon he's so good at like, I don't know if it's forgetting, but he's just gets over it. Like, moves on. And I'm like, no, wait. Because 2 days ago, what you said to me was like, that's the type of person I am. So let's like revisit that. And I heard somebody say that when you do feel yourself kind of like the argument getting heated, you should pause and take a 10-20 minute time out and just think about it and then come back together. Like, let yourself diffuse. And I was like, that's good advice. So Brandon and I think we're still a work in progress. I mean, 18 years later, we're still figuring out this like communication and navigating that. Yeah. And that's okay.
Yeah.
So
that's good.
Yeah.
That's so good.
I know, because we have a lot to talk about. Like, relationship, business, kids, life. Like,
that's so true.
We're intertwined.
You're in partnership.
In every aspect of our life.
John travels for work, right? And so people are like, oh, you miss him because he leaves, and it must be so nice because he leaves. And I'm like, no. He could be home every day, and I don't ever feel like, oh, I can't wait until he leaves. Yeah. I love talking to him or being in the same room and just working on anything. I just want him literally to be there all the time. Like, I see those memes with like the little wife forever following her husband. I'm like, that's me. Yeah, that's me. But okay, being married 18 years, living the life that you've lived, having the Lord help you, like humble you, rebuild your life. What is something, how do you navigate, or how would you articulate being bold?
Oh man, I just think within like your relationship, if that's what you're talking about, in my relationship, in my marriage, I think it's Brandon and I have never given up on each other at the same time. Like in a marriage, you can't, one person, there's days where he just annoys me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe it'd be so much easier like by myself. And then I realized, no, like I committed to Brandon knowing that his parents had been married for 40 plus years.
Wow.
And I think it was really important for me. I told my mom, it's really important for me to find somebody whose parents are together, because that person's going to understand commitment and longevity and digging deep and being bold together and sticking it out when it gets hard. Because I feel like people don't talk about in a marriage how hard it is. Like, you just want the ring and like life's going to be so great. But it is like we are fighting not for each other, but against everything, like day in and out, because we're fighting for our family. And so I think that's what being bold is in my relationship, is just sticking it out, having communication, fighting for each other, and having each other's backs. Yeah. Even when it gets hard.
Yeah. How does your relationship with God look like in all of this?
Oh man, I talk to God every morning. I talk to him all throughout the day. I really have asked him to lead. I was raised in the church, like not at a super young age, but I remember always going like with my grandma and my mom being the one to kind of take me to church. And I find that I am kind of leading my family. I think Brandon does so much. He's like, I'm going to do whatever you want to, like whatever you want to do. And he was a Christian like long before we got together, but he was raised Catholic. So he grew up a Catholic and then transitioned to Christianity later. And we just really try to realize that God gives us everything. Like our blessings came from him. All of our struggles that we went through were his way of teaching us that we can fight through anything, honestly, and get through on the other side. Yeah. So he's so important, really important in my life. And I sin daily, but he keeps me covered.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming and talking to me.
I can't believe it's over.
I know, through all the things. I really appreciate you.
I love you. I'm so happy of what you're doing with this platform. And
thank you.
I'm excited to see your growth and your business. And
you're so awesome.
Thank you for being a part of the Worthy Podcast. Make sure you subscribe, share, tell your friends, and tag me on social media.